When elected president in the election of 1980, there was no doubt that Ronald Reagan had already lived an extraordinary life, both personally and politically. He was born to his parents, Nell and John Reagan, in Tampico, Illinois in 1911. He lived a fairly uneventful early life and worked his way through his years at Eureka College while playing football and participating in the school plays. During his college years, he studied economics, which would be the primary focus of his political campaigns and objectives. After graduating from high school, Reagan became a sports announcer and then got his big break, winning a Hollywood contract in 1937. After getting this contract, Reagan would go on to appear in 53 films on his way to becoming a movie star.
My job is spreading news. That guy and his mayor brother-in-law are in with Nicey Ferguson's gang.
During his Hollywood career, he married two actresses, having two children with each of them. He married Nancy Davis in 1952, and she would remain his wife until his death in 2004. Reagan became deeply involved with politics during his years as the president of the Screen Actors Guild. He was vehemently against communism within the film industry, and his political views began to shift. Whereas he was once a firm supporter of the New Deal initiatives and a Democrat, Reagan began his transformation into a Republican with staunchly conservative economic principles. Reagan began to tour the nation and become what many saw as a spokesman for the ideals of conservatism. Reagan's transformation to becoming a Republican was complete when he famously declared, "I didn't leave the Democratic Party, the party left me." He launched attacks on President Lyndon Baines Johnson for his Medicare proposal, claiming that the passage of such a bill would strip Americans of their freedom and usher in an age of socialism. Reagan went on to give his much-lauded Time for Choosing speech, endorsing Barry Goldwater for president against LBJ, and many credit this speech with helping Reagan skyrocket his political career.
After becoming a star within the conservative media, Reagan ran a successful campaign to become the governor of California in 1966. He ran for re-election and served for another 4 years following his re-election in 1970. Following his terms as governor, Reagan ran a strong, nearly successful bid for the Republican presidential nomination against incumbent Republican President Gerald Ford. 4 years later, Reagan won the Republican nomination and challenged President Carter in the general election. Reagan chose Texan George H.W. Bush as his vice presidential candidate, and the two of them captured 489 of the 538 electoral votes. They were able to use the stagnant economy and Iranian hostage situation to portray President Carter as a weak president who was willing to settle for American mediocrity in the world. Reagan came to the White House preaching the rhetoric of a courageous reformer. He promised to reassert American interest in world politics through drastically increasing military spending and leading the world through a model of peace through strength. Although proposing massive increases to the defense budget, Reagan vowed to decrease the federal deficit by cutting social spending and gutting the Washington bureaucracy that he saw as holding the American economy in a stranglehold. A key area in which the newly elected president claimed he would decrease the federal bureaucracy and reinstate power to the individual states would be through his abolishing of the Department of Education. Reagan saw the Department of Education as encroaching on states' rights to educate their own children and as a drain on the American taxpayer. Though his rhetoric was strong regarding the abolishment of the Department of Education early in his presidency, Reagan's administration would see drastic increases in the authority of the Department of Education under Secretary Terrell Bell.